Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam tasliman. The title of my paper today, although it started out to be Shariah and spiritual transformation, I realized that I couldn't speak about this topic unless I extended it a little bit. So the title now is Ultimate Reality, Human Consciousness, Shariah, and Spiritual Transformation. The problem that is the basis of this paper is to explain how Shariah is related to spiritual transformation. How is Shariah related to spiritual transformation? At this point, I'll briefly summarize what I'll present today. First of all, the main obstacle to spiritual transformation is the nafs, the self's resistance to Allah Ta'ala. The antidote to this, and therefore the key to spiritual transformation, is following Shariah as well as the norms and practices of Islam and Tasawwuf. Through these means, Muslims experience mediated and involuntary surrender of their hearts. And this in turn makes it possible, inshallah, for Muslims to learn surrender voluntarily, even before surrender of death. So through these means, through Shariah, Muslims experience mediated and involuntary surrender of their hearts, and this in turn makes possible the learning of voluntary, willful surrender of one's heart before one is forced to surrender when one dies. Since spiritual transformation is for the better, there must be something wrong with the human self, or the nafs, for not pursuing it. At this point, we can reformulate the problem with a question using a medical metaphor. What is this disease of the human self, of the nafs, that compels it to not pursue spiritual transformation? Once we understand the disease, we should be able to understand the role of the Shariah in the ongoing therapy for the rehabilitation of the heart. We should be able to discern how the Shariah activates the latent potential of the heart to surrender voluntarily, consciously, and without intermediary to God, to Allah Ta'ala. In this way, having regained health, the heart will be capable of withstanding the attacks of the nafs. We can summarize the process of the disease as follows. What I will say now will be similar to what you see there. First of all, ultimate reality constantly becomes manifest. Second, the heart is attracted to it. The disease hasn't really started here. Third, the nafs, however, resists the heart's attraction. This results, fourth, in a profoundly uncomfortable tension. Fifth, the nafs then compulsively directs human consciousness away from the tension. Sixth, but in losing awareness of the tension between the heart and the nafs, human consciousness loses awareness of the heart, so that it becomes gradually paralyzed. Seventh, without awareness of the heart, spiritual transformation is impossible, since, as we will explain, the heart is the aspect of human consciousness that has the capacity to reflect the qualities of Allah Ta'ala. I should say that without the direct intermediary of Allah, spiritual transformation is impossible. Voluntary spiritual transformation is impossible, since in this case, the heart is the aspect of the human consciousness that has the capacity to reflect the qualities of Allah Ta'ala. Hence, the therapy
the therapy must involve two main steps. First, regaining conscious awareness of the tension between the nafs and the heart. Then, when the consciousness of this tension is regained, awareness of the heart will return. Its paralysis will diminish, making possible the second step, which is rehabilitating the heart so that it will voluntarily surrender to Allah and not succumb to the nafs. We'll now briefly expand upon the various aspects of the problem and the solution. In Islam, Allah Ta'ala is ultimate reality, al-Haqq. And that ultimate reality is one, ahad. That is to say, a unity, wahda, possessing infinite attributes, sifat, and names, asma. The fact that Allah Ta'ala possesses these attributes and names, however, does not in any way diminish His oneness. Subhanallah. Although Allah is the creator of the universe, He is also its sustainer, Rabb. As the sustainer of the universe, Allah manifests His qualities and names so that they appear as created beings and things. What we know as ourselves and the created world is comprised of nothing but the manifestations of divine qualities, sifat, and names, asma. Sufis call these manifestations Tajilliyat, which we can translate as theophanies. Theophanies. We can distinguish two dimensions of these theophanies, that which pertains to the malakut and that which pertains to the mulk. The malakut, or spiritual dimension of the theophany, is that dimension which is closest to Allah Ta'ala. It is beyond the physical senses and is often translated as the suprasensible or spiritual realm. In addition, it must be emphasized that the spiritual dimension of theophany is beautiful. The spiritual dimension, the malakut, the spiritual dimension of theophany is beautiful since it is closer to Allah and His qualities. And as we know, according to the Sahih Hadith, In-nallaha Jameelun wa yu-hibbul jamaal. Indeed, Allah is beautiful and loves beauty. Understandably, this beauty, being Allah's beauty, exerts an attractive force. The other dimension of a theophany, that which pertains to the mulk, is the physical and material dimension of the theophany. We can sense this with our physical senses. The theophanies at this level, the tajilliyat at this level, however, unlike the malakut, are not obviously theophanies to everybody. The nafs is attracted to them because of their physical quality. But those whose hearts are receptive can see even theophanies at the level of the mulk as signs of Allah Ta'ala. The heart of human beings has the capacity of becoming aware of theophanies. Al-Ghazali, rahmatullah alayh, for one, distinguishes the true heart from the physical heart, which he calls a piece of flesh. He calls the physical heart a piece of flesh. The true heart, though, can become aware of theophanies, can become aware of tajilliyat. As al-Ghazali states, within the heart is a window into the malakut. And so the heart is attracted by theophanies. These theophanies, these tajilliyat, call the human heart to awareness of Allah Ta'ala and pull human awareness away from the preoccupations of the nafs. Clearly, the chief obstacle on the path of Muslims is the nafs, as stated in the Hadith, aduwwuka nafsuka bayna janibayk. Your greatest enemy is your nafs, between the two sides of your body. The nafs is the aspect of human consciousness that directs awareness away from Allah Ta'ala, away from the spiritual dimension of the theophany of his names and qualities and towards the aspect of his creation that are furthest away from him. Namely, the nafs pulls attention toward the physical world, the mulk, and to preserving above all one's human self in the physical world. Thus, the nafs pursues a course in the opposite direction as that of the heart. Thus, within every human being is a conflict. A conflict between, on the one hand, the pull of the tajalli, the pull of the theophany upon the heart toward the malakut and toward the realm of unity, and on the other hand, the pull of the nafs to the physical world and to the individual self. This conflict produces a tension in every person. Since awareness of the tension between the heart and the nafs threatens the hold of the nafs on itself, the nafs compulsively directs attention away from the tension. It doesn't want the tension to be known, so it directs our awareness away. It tries to direct our awareness away from the tension. As a result, most people are either unaware of this tension, or if they are aware of it, they think about this tension in a manner differently from the way tasawwuf presents it. Instead of seeing the problem, the nafs, instead of seeing the problem as the tension between the heart and the nafs gives rise to the fact that many people conceive of this essential tension as being a mere psychological problem. A problem like boredom, anger, stress, or any one of a number of personal needs or criticisms. This is the game of the nafs. In the awareness of the nafs, there's always something wrong with something. The only problem that the nafs neglects is the tension between itself and the heart. The problem it attends to, the problems the nafs attends to, may in fact be real problems, but underlying them at all times is a greater problem. The tension between the heart and the nafs, underlying what may be a real problem, the nafs is saying, this is what's wrong, this is what you should pay attention to. Underlying this problem is always a greater problem. And this is the tension between the heart and the nafs, which is later referred to as the greater jihad. The nature of any tension is that if it is maintained long enough without being dealt with, humans become desensitized to it and numbed to it. In most cases, the tension between the heart and the nafs has been maintained unconsciously over a lifetime. In most people, this tension between the nafs and the heart is maintained unconsciously their entire life. Hence, the heart is virtually paralyzed and unreceptive to theophanies, unreceptive to Tajilliyat. In this regard, Sufis such as Maulana Jalaluddin Rumi, rahmatullah alayh, often quoted a purported hadith. Sufis such as Rumi said this: people are asleep, and when they die, they wake up. An-nasu niyam, fa-idha matu intabahu. Sufis, however, are those who have heard of the possibility of waking up before they die. They want to wake up before they die. They don't want to wait until they're dead to be forced to wake up. Consequently, Sufis are those who yearn for spiritual transformation, in which their hearts will awaken, in which their hearts will